Here's another video request that I think that I will do today right now. This one's another one from Gypsy Hustle, man. Gypsy Hustle gives me lots of good ones. Okay, I believe that the problem with society is that people choose to believe what is the truth rather than what is true. For example, many people, non-scientists, choose not to believe in man affecting climate change because it's convenient. Some believe that giving rich people further tax cuts trickle down and deregulation will help create jobs for the poor, even though most economists disagree. Or, for example, the Nazis believed that Jews caused all the problems. As you earlier noted, people want a war on drugs and believe that weed is deleterious to health without looking at the evidence. Sometimes we can't always determine what is true or not, but we can usually at least make a good guess, or say we don't know. Do you agree that people deciding what is true based on what they want to be true, without looking for evidence, is the cause of all our problems? Ideology, such as libertarians or anti-evolution, are driven mostly by what they want to be true instead of reality, it seems. Wow, interesting question. Yeah, dude. I do think that, I do agree that people deciding what is true on what they want to be true without looking at the evidence is the cause to all of our problems, man. Let's go in on these specific examples here. Yeah, dude. Well, you say non-scientists choose to not believe something even though there's evidence. Well, scientists do that too, unfortunately. Professional scientists do that. Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, I couldn't imagine myself being having a scientific job and then, being irresponsible with the data. But, people do stuff for money. People do stuff for, be able to get their kids through college, save their house, save their marriage, whatever, dude. People do anything for money. Also, people can lie to themselves. That's the best way to be a really good liar. Like if you decide that you really need to, believe in something and push some idea, some agenda, no matter what, then you just say it to yourself over and over again. You kind of act. That's how acting is. How do people burst into tears? How do good actors burst into tears? They think about something that's really sad that made them really sad, and then that makes the tears come out. So, how does a really good liar lie? They just put themselves in that universe. They're acting. Or like how's an actor act? They pretend they're the character. So how's a really good liar lie? They pretend they're in that world when they're lying. They're actually telling the truth, and then they say it over and over again, and then they kind of justify it a little bit and make tweaks here and there, and then next thing you know, they fucking believe it. Crazy. But yeah, scientists have been busted doing that kind of stuff. Like you say, climate change. Yeah, I think scientists have been busted actually changing data on that kind of stuff. Data on drugs, data on And to listen to how scientists actually explain the unexplainable is a really interesting thing. And not just scientists, but regular people. I'll give an example. A couple years ago, I got into this is the longest back and forth I've ever had with somebody on YouTube. Went on for like a month it went on maybe for a month and a half or something, because they answered me once and then I didn't answer them for like 3 weeks because I just didn't feel like answering anybody. And then they finally gave up. If you're gonna have a back and forth with me on my channel, I'm gonna be the last person with a comment, dude, guaranteed. Unless you're being a total troll, and then I'll just block you. I'm talking like an actual two-way conversation. Yeah, dude, like it was my Where Buddhism Went Wrong video, and it was now I don't know if they were Buddhist or not, but it was a person who believed. We ended up talking about something, and I think it was that video, because we ended up talking about something that had nothing to do with the video. We ended up talking about like, he was an atheist is what this person was. They didn't believe anything on the other side. And I keep giving all these reasons. And we ended up going back and forth for a really long time about the double slit experiment with the physicists and it's this experiment which basically illustrates how we create our own reality physically. Here, let me explain it really quickly because to put the story in context. The double slit experiment is fucking fascinating. It is somehow like scientists figured out how to shoot photons through, because they're trying to figure out, it has kind of something to do with the CERN experiments, like trying to figure out what matter is made of, finding the smallest units of matter and just knowing like what, because it has to do with the big debate. Is light particle or a wave, and it's a particle. It's the photons that get shot out, but they travel in waves. But what's the relationship between particles and waves? Because they follow like wave patterns, and so it's like, are they like one constant unit, or are they like different? And so like, what is a photon? Like let's individualize photons, and find out what a photon is and how they operate and stuff, right? So they get a photon gun. Somehow they figure out how to shoot photons out of this thing individually, one by one. I'd love to know how they did it, because those things are tiny. They figured out how to do it, and it worked with photons. Actually, now I heard David Wilcock, this is like 4 years ago, say in one of his talks that this worked with the buckyballs. So, and a buckyball it's a carbon atom that's like somehow, I don't know how they do it, but with nanotechnology they get 60 carbon atoms to kind of form a molecule. That's the geodesic dome molecule sphere. So you're talking an actual chunk of matter. Okay. And so, but I'll just go back to the photons because I'm not totally sure about the buckyball thing. But I mean, I don't think David Wilcock has any reason to lie, but they shoot these fucking photons through, right? One by one. And the photon goes and it hits the photon paper on the other side, the detector, and it's like, and they shoot it, boom, and then the photon goes the other side, the paper. And then they shoot another one and it hits another dot, like shooting a BB gun one at a time. Another one. And then they're like, all right, cool. Well, let's just shoot a bunch of them, one at a time. And so then they get another slit because it went through this big like iron wall with this like slit through it, and they would shoot the balls throughout the entire thing. And so the ones that hit the iron wall wouldn't go through, and the ones that went through the slit went through, because they wanted to see how they moved, and if they, and so then they did it with two slits, and they were doing them like that, and then so of course they got the two like little stripes on the other side from all the different lights hitting it, like if you're gonna shoot BBs through it, you're gonna have holes in the paper and the shapes of the slits, or a flashlight through a slit, you know what I mean? So they did that, and they got the two shapes. But then they did it. They shot a bunch of them, and without like monitoring each and every one, because it's like really slow that way. They just shot them out individually without monitoring them, just to see, the greater picture and stuff. Because maybe they're going to do some other experiments later on with more complex. Anyways, when they did it without looking at them, the configuration on the side was completely different. It was like lots of strips. And as you go farther out, the strips get, less dark. And they're like, wait, how? The only way that you could get a result like that is if you were like shooting them all at the same time, and they were all in there at the same time, and they all were bouncing off of each other, and then that would create the pattern. But they were shooting them one at a time. So if they were shooting them one at a time, how would they all hit the other side and bounce off itself? How would this buckyball, this carbon molecule, bounce off of itself. And so they were like, well, let's do it again, and we'll do a lot of them just like that, and we'll watch each one to see how it bounces, how it multiplies and bounces off of itself. So they did it again, and they watched every single one, the same way as before. But now there's 2 slits on the other side, just like it was before when they were just doing a few. And they were like, what? But we're doing the same thing as before. We shot the same amount of photons through as before. There's nothing different. Only just because we're looking at it, we're watching each one go through, we're actually affecting the how it affects the paper. We're actually making it so they go through one at a time. But as soon as we stop looking at it, all of a sudden they're going into this, they're evaporating from reality. They're disappearing from reality, and they're multiplying themselves into an infinite number of them, and then hitting the wall all at once. It's like some mutant superhero, but it only works if you're not looking. Like what was that movie with Ben Stiller from like 15 years ago, like the superheroes or whatever? And one of the superheroes, it was Janine Garofalo, or who else? The Indian guy. And one of the superheroes was the black boy, and his superhero was invisibility, but he could only be invisible if nobody looked at him, was looking at him. Right? Anyways, they didn't look at him, and he managed to actually be invisible. Like, the bad guys didn't see him, and he snuck in. But it's kind of like that, like you can actually, like, how could a camera being turned off over there that has nothing to do with the gun or the paper affect those two? They're not connected. And so it's this big mystery in the world of physics. Anyways, in the conversation that I went back and forth with this person, the atheist, they kept telling me, they like, and this happens all the time if you have battles with trolls. They're always like, they know everything about everything, the smartest person ever, and you're the dumbest person ever. They claim to know everything there was to know about the fucking double slit experiment. Like, they were like I think they were even saying they were like they were saying they were like they were at a physics PhD program. They were actual physicists. And they were like, no, it's totally explainable. It's totally explainable. They all know how it is. And I'm like, well, what do you mean it's explainable? How is it explainable? They're like, I don't have the time to explain that to you here. Look it up. It's common knowledge. It's explainable. Everybody knows. All the physicists know. And I'm like, well, look at the video where they say that the physicists, it was like a well-produced documentary. I mean, I guess you could say that they were lying and they made the whole experiment up, but that you have like physicists actually saying that it's not explainable on YouTube. And this is like a History Channel or whatever documentary about it. It's like people, that's how the experiment went, and they're like, no, it's totally explainable, you douche. And so there was no convincing that dude. But I mean, they had to say that because if they admit that they don't know there's something else, well, boom, that takes away their atheism, right? And so they absolutely had to, to say that. There was no choice. Otherwise, their identity comes crashing down. It's kind of like, I remember when America was invading Iraq this last time with Junior Bush. And I was watching CNN, and every night they would have Iraq would come out with their like statement, and and this guy didn't even get in trouble because he was just a puppet. Like, they prosecuted all the other guys, and this guy, like, they just let him go. And I thought it was kind of funny because when I was watching CNN, I saw him as being like the number one spokesperson for Iraq. I thought he was like the fucking vice president of Iraq or something, but it's this guy. He's like the spokesperson, on TV. He's like, we are winning the war. Everybody says America is right outside of our gates. That's bullshit. We are destroying them. We had just wiped out their whole army. And he says that every day. And then the next day they got like toppled, Like he was told to just, say that so that to keep their army fighting or something, and lying through his teeth, dude, lying through his teeth. Now, how much does he know he was lying? Who knows, man? I mean, there's people who can trick themselves into all kinds of shit. So those are some like specific examples of people doing that. Would I do that? Well, yeah, I've been known to lie, in order to like keep a job or like, for like money reasons, like just little white lies. Let me ask you a question. Like, have you smoked weed? Fuck yeah, I'd lie that. If I met like well, not now because I do YouTube videos and there's no way that I could get away with it. But if I did make YouTube videos and I had like a family to support and I was trying to get a job as a teacher and they say, have you smoked any weed in the last 3 months? I'd be like, no, well, I know what you're talking about. I'd fucking lie. Straight up, I'd lie. Have to lie, dude. Have to lie to survive, man. That's why they lie so much in Chile. In these poor countries, they got to survive, or else they're fucked. So, but I mean, but like, what's the difference between lying like that and then people, people deciding what is true based on what they want? Like, what's the relationship with bald-faced lying and then just, well, it has to do with your formative years. The first 6 years of your life are when your brain is being developed and it's developing an identity, and it is modeled off of your environment. It's modeled off of your parents. That it's extremely important. Like that's why there's so many problems in the world, because there's so many unwanted kids and their parents didn't love them and their parents were like, "You're crap. Get the fuck out of my face. I'm watching the game or whatever." And then they grow up and they're like, everybody's crap, and then they have kids, they abuse their kids or whatever. You get formed. And especially if you're getting programmed by your parents in your environment and it's very fear-based and it's like, they're going to get us or whatever. Then now it's the whole thing about the lying to survive. Now you got to believe it to survive. So like people can get like programmed to like the whole Christian thing, programmed to believe that you have to be a Christian and express your personal allegiance to Jesus and thank him for dying upon cross so that you don't have to burn in hell forever. And they're told that, and they have it drilled into their heads every single Sunday, and everybody they know says it over and over again, and and like if you've listened to the Beatles backwards, you're gonna burn in hell forever and all this kind of stuff, and you're just pounded over the head with it your whole life. By the time you grow up, and then you're programmed to to tell this is how the world is. This is, on Christmas we bring the Christmas tree in, and we watch this, and everybody looks like this and dresses like this, and like. And then they're like freaked out about the other people, and then and they're like, "This is America," and then all of a sudden you like move to another town or something, when you're like 20, you're a young adult, and everybody's different, and you're like, "But this isn't the America I grew up in." They're thinking different things. They're like, it can throw you for a loop. I think the best way to understand that is just for yourself, like. Think for yourself. A good experiment is to exercise. Imagine the world being not how you think it is. Okay, so like the way that I think the world is, I think that there's aliens all over the universe. All the stars have like life, and there's all kinds of life, and there's spirits flying around, and just there's it's a big old cesspool of life, and the aliens are flying around the earth. Now, imagine. I get to be really old, our technology gets really good, and I get to live to be 200 years old because I make a lot of, I get to have those extra organs put in me. I live a long time. 200 years goes by, like, we get the technology and we go and we actually land on Mars, land on the moon. No evidence of aliens, nothing. We figure out that like crop circles were done by these like crazy like college science experiment kids who knew how to do some crazy technique where we're like, oh wow, and we find out how the ancients build the monoliths, and it was some technology and it's all explainable, and it turns out that we are all alone in the universe. We're the only ones. and like there's no ghosts, and like somehow we get some kind of like scientific proof that there's no soul, like what kind of effect would that have on me? That's a reality that I didn't grow up in. Like, would that crush my whole psyche? Would that tear me apart? Would that make me deny and just make me go, no, I don't believe that no matter what? The answer is yes. You're never going to see me believe that when I die, my soul's gone, and that, now, as far as like we're the only planet in the whole universe, like if we were to prove that, that would throw me for a loop. I'd be like, it would be like, holy shit, this just got real. Oh my God, what the fuck? I'm in heat now. I'd feel kind of like that. So, but I have an open mind. I mean, imagine how traumatic it would be to somebody who doesn't have an open mind. It brought up, I read this book called Seth Speaks by Jane Robertson. Back in the 70s, this lady, I think she was like the first one to do it. They were playing with the Ouija board, and she got possessed by this spirit named Seth, who was like her friend from a past life. And she learned how to get into these trances where Seth would take over her body and talk through her, and which I believe all that kind of stuff. And she, or Seth, he said that one of his jobs on the other side, and he was talking about specific past lives he had and all this kind of stuff, but he said one of the jobs that he had on the other side was like suicide bombers from fundamentalist Muslim Middle Eastern places, when they kill themselves or when they die in battle. Not just suicide bombers, this is like people who die in battle. They expected, because they're Muslim, they expected to meet Allah. They expected, like, because what they read in the Quran and thought, they expected to like see Allah, like defeat like the devil or something, and then welcome him into heaven. And so one of his jobs was to play Allah when this person died, and to say, "I am Allah. Welcome, my faithful Muslim servant, come into the light." And he put on like a show, like when he killed the bad guy or whatever, and the guy was like, "Oh, cool, alrighty." And then he went into the light, and then his memory got wiped and all this kind of shit, and he got reincarnated. Which is interesting because, the spirit world, they take care of us, and the aliens, they take care of us. The aliens diffuse our nuclear bombs, and the spirits look after us. Sometimes they warn us not to step across the street, or else we'll get hit by the bus and stuff like that. But they also help us on the other side. Seth was assigned to do this or volunteered to do it because they had compassion, and like it would have been a big trauma, a big traumatic experience for the person who just died. He's basically the same guy. He just doesn't have a body anymore, has the same beliefs, but now he kind of knows he's dead, and he's kind of trying to orientate himself, and he expects to see this stuff. And now imagine if he goes on the other side, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, now look at the big universe. Now there's reincarnation. Now you can reincarnate here, reincarnate there. There's aliens everywhere, and that Allah thing. Oh yeah, that's just the whole universe being alive. We don't the aliens. I guess you could call them gods if you want. Okay, now let's go into the light. He'd be like, what the fuck, because I guess those guys were just like raised in such a tiny little box that any kind of like jolting could just do psychological damage to his soul and hurt him and make him like go crazy or something, go psychotic, and have to get reborn in a lower realm than he deserves to be or something, so yeah, dude. So if it's important to take care of people, to protect people from getting that shock on the other side, people can, and it warrants doing that. I guess the shock can be pretty big on this side too, to have your paradigm switch. And that's why, right now we have so much denial, like, who's that guy, Michael Horn, who does the magazine, like Skeptic magazine, and I've heard him on Larry King and Coast to Coast doing debates with believers of UFOs and stuff, and his argument is pretty damn weak, dude. And I mean, I wish I could debate him because it seems like the people who were debating were doing a pretty piss poor job too. But he was basically, I mean, his article, I mean, they weren't doing a piss poor job. I just think maybe I could have done a better job. But he was doing a piss poor job of like, he was just denying. He's like, oh, but it could have been that. No, it couldn't have. What you're suggesting is way more ridiculous than what really happened. Why don't you just accept what really happened? And they just, they just know what they know, and they know what they know. Third world countries are like this. At least Chile was like this. When somebody knows something, they know it. It's kind of like a crazy person, like some schizophrenic person who gets it in their head that like goblins are living in their closet. Like once they get it in their head, dude, and they're in one of those psychotic episodes, the best thing you can do is just leave them alone until they get out of that episode, or give them some medication or something, because you're not gonna convince them that there's not goblins in the closet or something like that, And so I think it's just like a mild form of schizophrenia. Schizophrenic episodes where people are just regular people, dude, are like, those Phoenix lights weren't aliens. I mean, I see the footage. Yeah, I see. Oh, I even saw it on Larry King. Fucking crazy, dude. It wasn't Michael Horn, but it was somebody else. And they have all these people, man. Governor of New Mexico. This, that, and the other person. 70,000 people saw it. They show them the footage, right? You see like, gridded lights, like in a specific formation, like they're on the bottom of a gigantic spaceship, and then that's it. No stars, nothing. It completely blocked out the sky of the entire city for like 3 hours. Nobody could see this. And so somebody's like, yeah, I couldn't see the stars. And the guy's like, well, are you an astronomist? Are you a professional astronomer? And she's like, no. He's like, well, there you go. It's like, wait, you have to be a professional astronomer to know whether or not you're looking at the stars or something's completely blocking out the stars and now you've got a couple of lights instead? And he's like, yeah, that's the one. Like, that's the ticket instead of the reality of this giant, beautiful universe having life everywhere and aliens. And then it explains, the pyramids and the ancient legends and this, that, and the next thing and all the sightings that other people see. It makes more sense to go, oh no, you're not a registered astronomer, so like you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. It's like I hit a dog on the way home. It's dead, lying on the side of the road. Are you a vet? No. Well, how do you know it was a dog? Dumbass. It's like I hit Bigfoot. He's in my living room. Are you a veterinarian? Are you an archaeologist? No. Well, how do you know it's Bigfoot? You want to come look at it? It's 9 feet tall and it's a humanoid, and he's hairy. He's got big feet. The person would be like, nah, I don't want to see it. That's what they'd say. You want to come out and look at it? Nah. You want to see my little alien head? It's right in my closet. Oh no, I don't want to see it, because then that would have to make them change their paradigm. And maybe some people would see it, and then they'd hold the alien head and they'd be like, wow, dude, you bought it in Hollywood. It comes from Hollywood props department. Remember in what was that movie with Ben Stiller, Tropic Thunder, the comedy, and like the dude, they get in the jungle and the guy steps on a mine and he blows him apart. And like Ben Stiller picks up his head on his bayonet and he's like, look, this is just a puppet. He didn't die. He didn't really die. He's somewhere else. And they're like, nah, he dead, man. Like, those are brains coming out. It's kind of like that. Like, it's right in front of your face, but you don't even know. Like, people do that, man. So yeah, the war on drugs, man. See, that's the whole thing. Like, people are programmed to think that stoners are like stupid and stuff. I mean, this is like complicated, man, because the whole like thinking stoners are stupid. Yeah, like in the past, like in barbarian societies, dude, our paradigms get shifted, do the pole shift all the time, man. Like in the past, in barbarian times, the dude who was the loudest and the most forceful and the most opinionated and the most fucking stubborn is the dude who got all the followers. Then you go into, say, modern day society. That guy is going to be the last guy to get followers. The first guy these days who's going to get followers is the guy who's going to listen to everybody and talk for the longest and explain in the most depth and speak with the most calm. Well, that guy would be the last person to get followers in barbarian times. He'd get his ass kicked. People would interrupt his ass. I remember in Chile, it's kind of like this. Third world countries, I think, in general. The dude who's like talks the fastest and the loudest is the guy who gets listened to the most. Who interrupts them. Well, actually, little kids are like this. When you're in like grade school and you're all hanging out having lunch, the kid who's like they're always interrupting each other and fighting for attention and all this kind of stuff. Like when the bird comes back and it's barfing up the worms, all little birds, little baby birds come and fight for it. Little puppies fight for the milk out of his mommy. They the one who fights the most wins. Well, now the one who fights the most gets thrown in jail because you got to follow the law. It's like laws get tipsy-turvied all the time. So people who are dumb, and shut in these little boxes and little heads, if they pass through one of these valency levels, when the world is changing and they're just leftovers from the past, they're gonna be like the crazy ones who can't wake up to reality. It's like, wake up to reality. Those old golf shorts aren't in style anymore, Grandpa. They went out of style in the 70s. What? Now they're in style. All of my friends at the old person home wear them. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh, okay, whatever, Grandpa. Like what? Cockroaches, they've been around forever. They just stay. Other animals evolve around them. They stay the same. So, yeah, you're going to get people staying the same, dude. And right now, stuff is changing so fast that, yeah, dude, we're getting a lot of people staying the same and a lot of people, absolutely refusing to believe in peace. No way, dude. Peace through strength, man. If we pull all our troops back from like Iraq and Afghanistan and shit, they're gonna develop a nuclear bomb and they're gonna bomb us. We just know we have to kill them all first. It's like, we gotta keep marijuana illegal no matter what, dude. Like I know that there's still stoners out there, and I know that it's getting more and more illegal as time goes on, and I know we can't even afford it. We're broke, but we're still spending $40 billion a year, but I know we need it if we stay the course. If we stay the course another 100, 150, 250 years, we will eradicate the stoners. We will defeat them. We just have to be more aggressive, Crazy talk. That person is not a good predictor of the future. They're going to end up on the wrong side of history, dude. Yeah, dude. So like, how do you fix that? You just got to have an open mind, man. You got to at least consider, like if you're going to have a religious debate with a bunch of fundamentalist Christians, okay, if you're a fundamentalist Christian and you're trying to convert somebody, maybe you should wake up and realize that how brainwashed you are if you're not allowing that person to express their opinion even once. If you have to just tell them, and then your friend tells them, and then the other friend tells them the same damn thing over and over again. And then they're like, okay, do you convert now? It's like, well, can I have my piece? No, we don't philosophize. We don't do that. Why? Well, we just don't. Doesn't make any sense. Like, people, you do well by communicating. And I'm not where we're from. We know what we know, no matter what. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with all the fundamentalists, Muslims and Christians mainly. I don't think the other religions like Buddhism and Hinduism, they could bend and expand their minds and believe in other things. I mean, Hinduism, they believe in God. They're monotheistic just as much as Christianity. They all believe in God. And I bet you a lot of Buddhists are the same way. And so, so the people who like kind of base their religion off not believing in stuff, like we don't believe in reincarnation, we don't believe in that, you're in trouble, dude. Because one of these days you're going to have to believe it, or at least address it. Once you address it, then you have to believe it. You know, once you look at the evidence and you acknowledge that it's real evidence, then it's bye-bye for your old belief. And I think you know that deep down, because we're all really smart deep down. We're all a facade of something bigger. We're all a part of a piece of us that's even higher and more wise and perfect. Kind of like the Plato analogy of the fire. We're just shadows on the end of the wall. The real fire is up there in space, up there in the other dimensions. And so they're wise. They're just these little facades. It's like they're like God, a little piece of God having a schizophrenic identity crisis, like experimenting. You know, I mean, it's fine, but you want to open up your mind, because you want to be. You're going to start suffering if you cling on to it. You know, like if you're holding on to a gun and the gun all of a sudden is red hot, you got to drop it, dude, or else you can burn your hand off. You know, if you're like believing in, if you're going to believe that like you can burn in hell if you don't bow down to Jesus, and now you're the only one who believes that, and everybody thinks you're crazy, you're gonna not be a very happy camper, man. You're gonna realize how crazy, and then you're gonna have to realize the truth, because everybody around you, and it's like in your face. Then you're gonna, since you were the last person to realize and open your mind, you're gonna be like the village idiot, and that's no fun. So yeah, dude, it's gonna be funny and interesting to see what becomes of ultra close-minded, like conservative, fear-based people who think that only Muslims get to go to heaven, everybody else burns in hell. You know, gets to bow down to Jesus, or else you're gonna burn in hell. And everybody who don't do that gonna burn in hell forever, ever in and on. I mean, I've explored that mentally, burning in hell for all of eternity. Imagine being locked in a coffin that is like 100 degrees. You know, you're getting bitten by like pointed spiders. You're just an incredible amount of physical pain. Now imagine that going on for eternity. You couldn't do it. And imagine you couldn't die. Like you couldn't get put out of your misery. You'd be begging to get put out of your misery, but you can't. Oh my God, what a horrific, like, to really grok that is like, it makes you have to not believe it if you really grok it. So I think the only people who say that, they're just dumb people. Their brains aren't strong enough to actually grok what the fuck they're saying. Because it's craziness. All of eternity. Pain. No parks in hell. No like nice, cool, air-conditioned, like, you know, rescue little break areas. You know, like, dude. I even had this crazy fundamentalist Christian yell at me and say that when he went to heaven, he was going to laugh at me, look down, and me in hell, burning in hell forever. And he knew it, and he looked forward to it. So I guess, you know, some of those fundamentalist Christians believe that, and I guess, I don't know, maybe a lot of them believe that when you're in heaven, you can actually look down into hell, and you can see them individually, and remember your friends, but they can't look up at you. And so that, I guess maybe that's a pastime that they do, and that they have fun doing, reveling in the pain of others. That's what heaven's all about. It's like, how does that make sense? They're saying crazy stuff like that all the time. That's why I love the Young Turks, because they're always making fun of people. That some lady the other day, some Republican Texan, tried to say that, I can't remember. Oh man, I can't remember what it was. But she tried to bring religion into it, and something about Muslims burning in hell forever or something. Anyways, yeah, and watching him freak out about the Muslims and that they're being a Muslim is evil, and not being like, wait, well, hold on. There's good Muslims. Can you admit there's good Muslims and there's parts of the Quran that are good? Can we look at the whole picture? What about the Islamic Empire? Like, yeah, dude, it's all about communication and talking. So anyways, the future will get better, but it's going to be, that's one of the most interesting things about the future, is just watching the really close-minded people wake up. And how long is it going to take? How far is it going to get? How crazy are they going to get? You know, it's because a lot of them are kind of acting like vampires. You know, when you kill a vampire, they scream really loud. Well, you know, if you back like a rat in a corner, it's going to bite you. If you like marginalize like control freaks and like fear-based control freaks so much that now they're the vast minority, and now they're starting to realize that they're wrong, and they've been wrong all the time, or they still think they're right, and everybody who's wrong is now like 99%. They're like, oh my God, Armageddon. Like maybe they'll start doing like Christian Americans who used to go to church are going to start doing like suicide bombings and stuff, because now they think they're in hell. maybe I can bomb myself out of hell. Maybe that's what, does it say anywhere in the Bible? And then they can make up whatever they want from the Bible. Literally make up whatever they want from the Bible. They say all kinds of shit from the Bible, and then you could use the same sentence to say whatever the hell you want. But they don't do that. You can't debate what the Bible says, you know. And I think Catholics are like that too. Like Catholic priests, nuns and stuff weren't even allowed to read the Bible. I couldn't believe it when I heard them ex-Catholic nun say that. You weren't allowed to read the Bible. Anyways, I got to go.